putting it.
To find the best in the West. So we are at the Western Conference now.
That is true. We'll find the best in the West tomorrow. Because the winner of this match is going to play TSM.
This is the warm-up for the best of the West.
Or Evil Geniuses.
That's true. Good point.
So with Clubhouse.
Maverick. Well, good way to start that.
Are we going to see another double hard breacher ban? That's the question.
I would kind of hope not, because that definitely wasn't great for whoever played Thermite. You really got stuck on a tough role there. But we will not. Capitao has been so influential today in both sets of matches, so not a surprise to see him go. That means Garage is going to be a little bit safer, something you were mentioning earlier, how much of a death trap that is. When he brings those firebolts, he will not be in play. That means there will be two other hard breachers available. That means Habana and Thermite. Although Maverick's still probably one of the best tools in this, and Kaid's still possibly playable as well to make it much harder to deal with those hatches.
Mirror removed from the equation. We saw Clubhouse earlier today. She was still in play, and Valkyrie gone as well. All right, so we got a couple changes on what we're going to see played and what we won't see played here. Keep in mind that we now have a Maestro and Echo available along with that Kaid, as you touched upon. So
yeah, defense is actually in a much, much better position this time around for sure. I mean, all the bans really favor them. I mean, yes, the hard breach bans earlier did favor them, but I think outside of hard breach bans, the utility bans here definitely favoring them. Yes, Mirror being banned, but that's not a huge role on this map. We hardly even saw it getting played during the first match when it wasn't banned, so that's not a big deal. Kaid just being teased, though, actually, this time before being 6th pick to a Castle. Castle is something we actually saw quite a bit of in the very first match on Clubhouse.
North American teams love to run Castle. And of course, that extends to the United States Nationals.
Protect your bombs from being defused
when you run a
batteries.
Castle here, especially on Church or even Cash, a lot of teams will try to waste time and utility on that first floor, the bar stock area, whether it be opening up hatches, as you just saw Fox A do, opening up the main hatch inside a bar and then reinforcing above. Bear in mind that we are looking at a bottom floor defense, but just like we saw in our Eastern Conference playoff earlier today when the Sonics played Tempo Storm, there's going to be quite a lot of vertical play. And it's interesting because how long has it been since we were in any meta that involved roaming when you're defending the basement of Clubhouse?
It's just, it was tried and worked. There's a lot of suicide missions in Cash. It generally wasn't favorable. You were never getting out of it alive, right? You were trading 1, maybe 2 kills, but you were almost guaranteed to die, even if you were 2 people up there. So a roam is always very difficult. It's the lack of escape routes. This is what it comes down to. If you're trapped, and you're most likely going to be, you're going to die. It's how many can you take down with you swinging on the way, and can you take down a valuable operator? Let's say they kill the 2 hard breachers. That's a big, big play if you're upstairs, even if you have to trade 2 people for it. But if you just die and don't trade anything, or trade an operator like Thatcher is, great and all, but is not going to be the most consequential operator to trade, that's not a great play. They are going to try it with Cash, though, and Slash is going to go for a potential play. They just need to pinch him. He probably shouldn't overdo this, especially with that deployable shield.
Slash loves to run the G8 on IQ. It's a bit unorthodox when you see an AUG from time to time, or even her Commando, the Commando, of course, being the favored weapon here.
That's one of 2 LMGs he likes running, because he also runs it on Capitao as well.
Yes, that's also true, instead of the Para, so it's just a preferential pick, and of course that G8 obviously changing up, adding the angled grip. So here we see from Reciprocity, TR, formerly Rec, as we used to call them, still up top, very heavy inside of Cash. Lots of utility being expended there. You've got what appeared to be a yokai drone situated at the top of red stairs. You've also got mute jammers and castle barricades as well on the main floor. And Doodle doesn't want to find himself in an early altercation because, of course, he's one of their 2 hard breachers. You're going to need that Hibana at some point. But I think you can expend a little bit of utility here on the first floor, knowing that there aren't every single defender down below. You don't have to worry about 5 people on the basement. So Hibana isn't as necessary as if you see a very standard basement defense where you need to get those hatches open. You need to get dirt pressure. You need to be able to push onto Church.
I mean, let's be honest. With the amount of time left, they could just go for a push downstairs, 5 against the remaining players downstairs, and then just guard the entrances at that point. We've seen it happen, and it looks like they're pushing at least towards blue to potentially make this happen. But if you do it too slow, they can rotate back.
Very wary of any lesion traps that will give their position away, and whether the jig will be up or not, we're not entirely sure. Lots of patience here, but no, Nyx will get a little bit too antsy, and then the castle pops up as well, traded off swiftly by Slash, so you got some supporting cover there. Laxing finds Doodle, the Hibana not able to make it towards the site. Vertical's gonna push on out as the plant is going down, Hyena prone, and right now getting chipped away at from Vertical with Laxing there. Rexin in a 1v2, was a 1v3. He'll have to plant with 30 seconds left, and great patience from Reciprocity. Vertical just sitting and waiting alongside Fox as Rexin goes for the plant. Prompt going up, and slowly but surely, the members of Team Rec will push on out, and it's the newest member picking up what appeared to be 3 kills, might have been 2 on the round. Vertical making his presence known very early, and round 1 goes in favor of Reciprocity.
I mean, let's be honest, that was a very improvised attack at that point. They saw what was upstairs, did not want to deal with it. Some of it due to the castle barricades really shutting off angles of approach. They're just in lack of utility to deal with it. I mean, they might have had to go down to using X-Kairos to open up those castle barricades just to be safe. So because of that, they went for the push downstairs, but I think they did it too little, too late, too slow. They might have even been worth leaving one person upstairs just to act like he was going to go for a push upstairs, but nonetheless, they did still put up a good effort to got it down to a 1v2. But when you're 1v2 and you've got a plant, you're essentially in a 0v2 at that point. It's a tough spot to be in, but either way, I thought that was fairly well played given the situation, but just too much firepower there from Reciprocity, not to mention the fact they were able to trade pretty much every kill in their favor for the most part. But they're going to go cash now, of course, having one church. This is generally the secondary, but we did see a little bit of gym earlier, most likely to see that here as well.
The analyst desk touched on it earlier, and you're going to hear us repeat it an awful lot, so feel free to take a drink of your favorite non-alcoholic beverage, as obviously we can't, well, what's the sponsor? Mountain Dew? Take a shot of Mountain Dew every time.
There you go.
There you go.
Good answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a shot of Mountain Dew every time you hear us talk about it. The playstyle that Laxing has is not very common. It is a lurker-style role where he plays off on his own, usually supporting himself. Impeccable game sense for the most part. Sometimes the opponents read into the way that the setup from Rec is, and Laxing can end up being a non-factor because, well, they just avoid him, as we saw Luminosity try to do.
Yeah.
But Laxing was able to get back to the site fairly quickly.
So was Vertical.
And Vertical was as well. The moment that the kill from Doodle happened, Laxing continued to get back towards the site. And obviously helped Rec's chances quite a lot.
One thing that does help LG a little bit is that I would think Slash knows Vertical pretty well at this point, can help the team at least understand how he's going to be playing, but that's just, you know, that's not going to be a huge factor. Like, that's the only member he knows as well that he's played alongside as a teammate, so that is, I mean, that's something, I guess. But Slash is definitely like the newer member of the team that's going to bring something different. And I think what he brings is a lot of flexibility to the team. But I don't know how much we're going to see that right now, as he's mostly just, you know, they're trying to go for the same attack again for the most part in terms of operator utility.
I don't know how Vertical was able to escape that one, as he was concussed trying to bandit trick onto the cash wall, but falls off. Could have been a very hairy situation for him, which would have resulted in his premature death. Not a single scratch on anybody so far. As a minute to go and some utility being expended from both sides, but mostly the attackers having to do the rest of the work now that the wall is open.
Well, Nyx at least should be able to sit safe in garage, the catwalk for the moment, but Slash is going to try and put pressure on downstairs, and having to reload that early with the LMG when you've got that many bullets does feel like a little bit of a waste in bringing an LMG, just for it slowing down things here. They're going to go with potentially with the upside down rappel. They're very powerful on this particular door for trying to fight people up on that catwalk. That's what they're going to be trying to do against Nyx. They're, of course, opened up the garage wall as well to try and pressure down from below, and Doodle was droning that. They're just trying to get positioning information at this point before they make their attack, as they have about a minute left, but they're going to need to execute on that information quickly before players on Reciprocity change positions too much. There is, of course, a Yokai that's going to be sneaking around invisibly, as well as Mozzie to try and stop that. And there's Laxing. Those unexpected plays take it down. Slash.
We've already seen now Vertical getting in on the action, too, with catwalk pressure not being given away. The factor will take Nyx out. Nyx not doing so well in his gunfight so far, but he's making adjustments, I'm sure. Fox grabs Factor, and Doodle hot on the heels, but no, Fox A will be too successful for him. Once again, Rexin will be the only hope for Luminosity. In a 1v4 this time, so even more daunting odds. He's making an awful lot of noise and giving his position away. He'll encounter the Echo first and foremost, drop him, and just a little bit of dipsy doodling around. Not sure if he meant to do that. You can see the look on his face. That was not intentional. So he'll come back up. He's miles away from the diffuser, and he's only got 10 seconds to go. Feed him some impact kills. Yes? No? They're low impact. He's not going to make it into the garage. He gets locked out and Vertical. Once again, the very final kill in Reciprocity. Off to a good start.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate situation. I mean, it just kind of felt like a lot of the members of LG were just kind of walking into Reciprocity's traps. Yeah, they were trying to drone as best they could. The Mozzie Pest probably stopping some of those positions from being known. but it's their ability to execute on it. It seemed like Reciprocity were just itching on that mousetrap to spring it. Like, there was not a moment where LG felt like they could really get any map control. It was, maybe they traded, but it was never map control. It was go into the building, maybe get a kill, but you're going to die too, until Rexon's left with the diffuser practically on the other side of the map. I mean, the point that he fell down into blue, it was, what was going to do really at that point? Like that, he was so far away, unless everyone fed themselves to him, there was no way to save that round. And it does get a little bit frustrating, I would say, at least for Rexon to be in that situation a couple times now, really wondering, what are the rest of you guys doing that I'm in this situation each time?
I mean, at the same time, if you're Rexon, with the way that Zofia has played on this map, you should be one of the main entries, obviously, and he's very, very skilled.
It's a frag heavy op.
I am very interested to see if Nyx is going to possibly go for a spawn peek. I'm not sure. He's dawdling around the bomb inside of Jim.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what Nyx is going to bring to his team, because Nyx is someone I was surprised to see get exchanged off Dark Zero, because he is such a great player overall. I think this was a really good pickup for Reciprocity, and so far, these first 2 rounds, it showed maybe not him as a highlight, but he's doing his part, and I imagine when we get on attack as well, if he plays similar to how he did on Dark Zero, he's going to be an impact there as well. But at the same time, there's so many other impact players on this team, it might be hard to see it.
We've already seen 2 changes through these last 2 rounds as well. Laxing, of course, being on Echo both times. We're not used to him playing that style of role. Now he's going to be going on to the Bandit, which was Vertical's roles. Now Vertical's on to the Jaeger. So
Laxing's a good Bandit, though.
For 3 rounds, you've seen Laxing switch things up. So that's interesting all on its own.
Well, but nice to know that Maverick ban will at least be effective in stopping their default strats.
It's a big shout out as well to Hopes, the coach of Reciprocity. He's likely doing his homework, and a lot of homework to be done given how recent that roster change was.
Yeah.
Reciprocity hasn't had an opportunity to test it out in any real capacity. You pick up Nyx, you lose one of your IGLs in Skies, you lose some leadership in Mark, you pick up Vertical, probably one of the best fraggers and best aimers in all of North America. Well, hey, that's going to require some changes all on its own, and I think there's some very valid criticisms that not just myself, but others have leveled towards Nyx in regards to him maybe getting a little bit too over-eager or too confident, giving his life away. So far, you need to be a steady hand on the tiller here, and he's going to be playing on Anchor for this particular.
I mean, some of the other players are very good at being aggressive. I think he's kind of letting them do that. Players like Fox, for example, or Laxing when the time is right. Vertical has taken a bit of damage, though, in the meantime, about half his health. But that's not a big deal. At least a minute and a half has been burned, and they haven't lost anyone just yet. They've even captured at least 1 drone with a Pest. So they're in a good position here, depending on how this execute goes down. And really, it's not been that much of an execute just yet. For example, they have not opened the hot tub wall, and Hyena is on the other side of the map in cache. So they're not really checking off the checkboxes too much, outside of bottlenecking themselves potentially into that construction door.
Like if a Maverick might require a Thatcher every single time as well. As you can see with Luminosity, they're kind of locked in on what their composition has. Plenty of disruption, of course, and soft destruction to boot. Waiting to see if either of the hard breachers are going to assemble themselves over towards the jacuzzi. Being shown on the spectator is, of course, that a default cam has been left up. That's a bit of a rookie mistake.
Defender exposed.
Laxing with a nice early kill. Again, last round is when he was opening up the kills, and then it just went down from there. At least it slowed down a little bit, but 38 seconds left. That's not going to be the only kill against Luminosity here.
No, not at all. 2 bodies stacked up inside the logistics. Foxay will find 1, cannot repeat onto the second, asking Nyx to tag on in. He gets down, but he's safe, at least for the time being. Vertical pushes on up himself, but it's all once again on the shoulders of Rexon. How many times are we going to have to say this?
Drop the bomb diffuser.
He's dropped, and of course, Zofia's unique ability to withstand just prolonging the inevitable. That's 3 unanswered rounds now for Reciprocity on defense, as I can't pronounce words.
You can see that cute Fox smile, though. That's all that matters.
Beautiful man.
Really. What's he doing playing a game where you can't just transpose his face into the game? We need to work on that. He needs to be an op.
There were a couple mistakes that were made for Luminosity there, and I don't know if they got caught up by the way that the defensive structure from Reciprocity unfolded. First and foremost, huge oversight. Take out the default cams, for crying out loud. Why did you not do that? Especially the default cam, that gives you full view of the windows into Gym and Master, and then Jacuzzi as well.
Well, you could take out all 3 from the roof.
And they were on the roof for a long enough period of time, number 1. Number 2, they lost Doodle before it looked like there was any real significant hard destruction done. They got tripped up on cache. Laxing goes for a run out over towards Strip and picks Doodle off in one of the most common runout spots that exist on this map, especially on that site. I feel a lot of rookie mistakes from Luminosity on that one.
It almost feels like they're being hazed here at this point. Just like, no, this is how you play the game, guys. And they're like Luminosity, I feel like they're gonna have to take a timeout soon. And just really be like, refocus, not get tilted, especially Rexon, who's, like we said, been kind of not in the best spot. I mean, at least he had the diffuser last round when he died, but they really need to refocus the strat. They need to play it a bit differently. We know Rexon's a great fragger too, because as they said in the analyst desk, this team used to really rely on him as a fragger, and when he started falling off, this team really struggled. That shouldn't be the case here. I think this team has what it takes, but we're not seeing it right now. Reciprocity, we're seeing them at their finest as usual. I mean, this is a team. Also, keep in mind, on LAN, Reciprocity is a very good team.
Well, the old iteration.
Well, sure, but I think the people that were really good on LAN are still here.
I'm not.
You're not sold yet?
I'm not sold on the way the team is going to play around them. That's the big thing, right? So I think there's some things that the analysis desk are going to be able to dive into at some point, but I mean, that's their job, not our job. We can just kind of call it as we see it so far. Reciprocity, having completed a full cycle and been perfect on it, are now going to go back downstairs. Of course, Church was open, and the only other site that was open was Barstock, and you're probably not going to see most teams go there.
At least they're not roaming this time.
I was going to say, this time around, the roam setup worked very effectively, but it's a one-and-done style.
Absolutely.
You use it, that's all you really need.
Maybe overtime you could throw it in again.
I mean, sure, just wait and try to catch them off guard. In this case, you know where Luminosity drones are going to go. They're going to go upstairs. Hey, there's no castle on the board. Hey, they're not invested up top. All right, this is a very standard defense where you have all 5 of the people on defense sitting inside of the site. They just wait very patiently. You don't need to wrestle map control away because there's no real control to get. Your real points of entry are going to likely come from whoever drops down Moto Hatch and then Kitchen as well.
The nice thing is they brought some different utility this time as well. Vertical on that pulse, going to be able to identify the IQ. They've been able to see each other a little bit, but also they got the Kaid to be able to try and deny those hatches now that they actually have to worry about them because they're not playing upstairs. So I like the changes here. I really want to see if Slash and Vertical end up in a bit of a battle here. There we go, the attempts from Slash to try and hit him didn't quite happen.
Got a tiny bit of damage, but I mean, it's so challenging to do that.
You got to hit the head, really.
EMP goes off, and it should be able to snatch the Electric Claw away from that hatch, which will allow Doodle to get the hatch inside of Kitchen. Not really doing super well on time, if you're being honest with yourself. There's a minute to go. Factor's going to try to distract the bottom of main stairs. Takes a chunk of HP away from Nyx, but that's it, as Factor doesn't get touched at all. Very restless right now. Smoke goes off in front of Factor, so he's not going to be able to get through there without choking off some damage. And Nyx still has 2 remote gas grenades left for 45 seconds. You can string those together pretty reliably. LG have assembled their troops in a very interesting spot because Hyena's now inside of Oil Pit, and he can begin moving over towards Retro, who's under assault from the Zofia. Doodle finds Retro, but Vertical's waiting, hungry at the bottom of main stairs. It's a flurry from Reciprocity. Rexon finds Laxing. 3v3 set up with 20 seconds left. You can see on the right side of your screen exactly what's happening from above. Fox finds one, traded out by Rexon. 2v2. Slash absorbing damage, but he's better than Vertical, and Fox, as the Kaid, will have to go up against a 1v2. Rexon might end up being last alive again as he engages with Fox. Lots of damage done. Fox can obliterate anybody with one shot. Does it? Doesn't land the second, and finally Luminosity gets on the board. Slash with the very final kill needed for his team to break the stalemate that was had here, or break the streak rather. It's still a 3-1 lead for Reciprocity.
Definitely just, again, desperation coming out from LG in terms of pushing the blue. Just that time they won more trades is what it came down to. But at that point, there was enough people downstairs that they probably had a better idea of the positions, whereas last time when it was the roamers returning downstairs, they weren't expecting, for example, Vertical. Obviously, being Vigil is much harder to drone out. So they were a little bit better prepared, but that still got really desperate there. From Luminosity, I just haven't seen a lot of confidence in their attacks. I mean, there wasn't really anything stopping them from doing a good job of droning it and getting an idea of what's going on, because there was no Mosley that round. They really should have been in a better position to play that. Should have been a lot more flank going on, like you talked about, playing from Oil Pit, playing from different angles. They were really just one-dimensional on that push, and again, just won enough gunfights to barely eke it out. They can't get away with that round after round, especially with as many good fraggers as there are on Reciprocity. You can't coast off that. So it's going to be down to, obviously, Reciprocity adapting a little bit to that in terms of let's not over-peak it. Let's
seconds
make
left.
sure the trades are in our favor. Let's have them come to us when they're pushing one-dimensionally
5
from
seconds to
blue
insertion.
and work that in our favor again. I mean, it could turn into a bit of a kill box of blue because we've got two potentially soft walls from church and from armory to be able to just kill box that in there. And there's, you know, yeah, you have the generator, but that's a sliver of movement you can do safely.
One of the big pieces of that puzzle for LG was securing blue. And that was Retro, I believe, playing alone, largely unsupported inside of blue. He got hit with the Zofia concussions, and then he got pushed from the thermite coming down the hall as well. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see the full frenzy of the kill feed, but that's okay. But I believe Retro was taken care of pretty early on.
Yeah, it doesn't help. I mean, he's going to be playing generator again. Here, he's going to be that Jaeger. That's his job. This is a very, very typical thing. You also often see the Zofia like this against that position, trying to stun, trying to do something against him. But they're not bringing any nades. They don't have anything to nade him out of the position. The best they can do is stun him at this point. So, I mean, that's not a great position to be in to try and deal with Retro this time. You've got to hope he kind of makes a mistake. They still are pushing blue, but luckily, at least it looks like they might be going for the Master Staircase this time, but they need to worry about Vertical here, able to call out when a push is coming down there and how many are coming down.
Vertical getting some damage taken away once again by Slash, who's hunting this pulse relentlessly. Exothermic charge will take out the hatch inside of the bar. There's still a couple more targets for that hard destruction to work at. Reciprocity will scatter deeper in towards the site. Foxay could decide to get maybe a little bit brazen, but holds off for the time being.
Still has 2 attacks in his pocket, though.
He's got Slash above him. I don't know if they're aware of the positioning. It's only been about half the round, so very slow for the time being as to what Luminosity has done. In the midst of smoke is Hyena, choking through the damage. Church wall, will you be able to successfully bandit trick it? No, there's nobody there. It's an Electric Claw possibly thrown up. No. Waiting, just gonna dry peek right behind the shield and giving Nyx all the callouts that he needs. Vertical's in trouble, C4 goes out, doesn't connect. Hyena's very low on HP. Out goes another EMP, trying to disable Vertical, who's going to have to take the fight to his own hands. There's a drone on Nyx, I don't think he's seen it yet. So he's under heavy watch from Luminosity. That's a major problem. 40 seconds left, and you're continuously collecting that information. Nyx peeks Hyena, didn't have much HP, though, to work with there on the thermite. So Vertical assumes the old position again in the default plant spot in Church. He's got 2 at the bottom of main stairs. Targets acquired, but the diffuser itself will need to be acquired as it's been dropped inside of Moto. Retro getting very minimal pressure. He's inside of blue, perfect head level to wait and see if Doodle will push on up, but nothing for the time being. Nyx gets his second kill. Waiting for more, still being assisted with all these calls from Vertical. Vertical keeping his team in this one. Now Retro will find one, cutting Doodle down. 2v5, and it's time to reassemble the troops somewhere. There's Laxing with one. Will Fox be able to get in on the action? No, Slash needs to push up, but he won't. It's a flawless round with Nyx collecting his third to end things. 4-1 in favor of Reciprocity, and Luminosity don't look like they have the same confidence that we saw at OGA Pit. They're gonna need to find something as this is their map.
I gotta question the IGL at this point. The plays that they made, let's just have 2 guys poke at Church and see what happens and have everyone else upstairs. That's not a plan. Oh, you know what? They're dead. So let's trickle the other 3 down and see if maybe we can kill some people. Gee, I wonder why it was such a good round for Reciprocity. That is not the play. They're, again, just making really bad calls on these attacks. Either they're all coming from one spot or they're trickling in to feed them at that point. I mean, they had some okay ideas, but the fact that they didn't have any support to make that Church push, why open the wall and then not have anyone down there? All of a sudden, you've actually cut yourself off a rotate to be able to rotate between main stairs and Moto. It's just, and then, you know, they're sitting in Moto, and Nyx is just able to easily peek them because they're not really contesting or holding any angles for the most part to do anything. It's just complete lack of support. Yeah, maybe Slash was doing stuff from upstairs to be able to identify the positioning of the pulse, but once you hit it with the EMP, he's not going to be on that anyways. The upside is they did actually stun a yokai with that as well, which was sitting down for a while, but then they didn't have any support to push with that information. That was actually a good time to push because you'd hit the pulse, you'd hit the yokai. There wasn't a lot of defense in Church outside of the deployable shield, which should have been Sophia's job. They had the utility and the means to make it happen. Just, that's why I questioned the IGL, who made the calls to make that play like that.
I mean, we mentioned, or I mentioned in particular, the fact that you had a drone sitting watching both Nyx and Vertical, and yet Hyena still gets pushed on Moto. You can't let that happen.
And maybe the communication is just broken down.
But I mean, it could be that they're getting overwhelmed by Reciprocity, because keep in mind, there are obviously going to be changes from Rec, with Nyx doing a lot of the primary shot calling from what I understand alongside Foxe. Obviously that's going to require a change. You've seen Laxing playing on more support-oriented roles than usual. So they've kind of thrown things out and made some changes, just as we saw from Dark Zero. Who knows, but right now, Rec is very firmly in the driver's seat. I will say one thing, and that is this is, of course, a clubhouse defense, and you expect them to do well.
Located by attackers.
On defense, you probably should be walking away with a 4-2.
I don't know. After what we saw earlier, I
think that was an outlier, though, to be fair.
Certainly could be.
I do think that was just simply an anomaly when it comes to the way that Clubhouse is played, and I think that both of those teams in the Sonics and Tempo Storm were making some very rash and obviously quick plays that resulted in lots of fragging. Here there's been lots of fragging, but it's more, I would say, thoughtful.
Yeah.
There's more strategy behind what they're doing rather than outright pugilism.
Bad timing there as well. Vertical able to get the bandit trick off because the Zofia hit it too early before the thermite was ready to trigger it. Just not good time. That's going to cost him 2 EMPs and a Zofia, at least, or 2 of them rather.
Keep in mind that you can do what you saw in the Sonics versus Tempo Storm match, which is just go in and shoot underneath, as we saw Gonfi do a number of times. Won't be the case, as the bandit is still actively tricking. So Vertical being able to get away with murder for the last 1.5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
The call has been made from LG in order to get out of there and go somewhere else. It's not going to be Garage, though. Capital was banned, of course, so he's not available for either team to use. And of course, he's one of the best counters for anybody that's playing up on Catwalk. Those Jaeger ADS devices are not going to be saving you one bit. So Rexon now heads on over towards the Garage as Factor finds the very first frag of the round. It's on to Laxing. Where's Nyx? Just situated. Top of Garage. Foxe finds Factor, so it's a refrag. It takes a little bit of time, but LG did get the opening pick, which is good. Fox is down below Nyx, so there's 2 people supporting over by Garage. I don't know if, for the time being, we're going to see Hyena maybe pull off. You're going to have to hurry, though, if you're Luminosity, because you're now changing yet again, and there's under 30 seconds to go. Flash is going to go in. Fox vulnerable, as he can't see anything, completely blinded. Nyx pops up, cannot outduel Hyena, at least for the time being, but Fox is there just in case. He's going to get pushed from Lounge, takes out Rex and heads for the hills. Nyx grabs one, that's Diffuser down. This round is lost for Luminosity, no way for them to be able to fix themselves, and it's all left but the crying. 5-1 will be the scoreline for the first half. Reciprocity dominating Luminosity on their map. We'll swap sides and see if it's just a defensive hole or if Rec have some magic on their opponent's map.
I mean, this is really Luminosity needing to recollect themselves. Luckily, on defense, you can do that a bit better. Time pressure is not on you. You're in a position where you get some time to set up, to think about things. You get to decide the pace of the round a lot more than the attackers do. This is a good position for them to fix things. But they should call a timeout. Honestly think, just recollect yourself, refocus. They've looked like making all these mid-round adaptations, making last-minute calls, making split pushes that aren't split properly to actually pinch. Things like that. That's not indicative of a team that's in control here.
Need to locate
and Reciprocity being the exact opposite of that. We're rarely seeing them lose people, except for in Trade Fest towards the end. I mean, Laxing dying in that round was the only real surprise. So it's definitely been looking very good for Reciprocity. But again, we got to see if this is just a side beast thing. I want to see how Reciprocity's attacks go. But they're going to be moving into their attacks confident. And confidence can definitely help, especially when you got someone like Nyx, for example, on Ashe going in. If he's going in aggressive, you need to be confident. You need to feel like you can make the plays. And that's if Luminosity are still in a position of kind of franticness, you can exploit that. Luckily, they're going to go down in Church. I don't think they're going to go for a roam play. They can kind of stick it, turtle up, maybe just wait out the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, while the droning goes on upstairs, and figure things out. That being said, it looks like they still have people upstairs potentially. So I don't know if that's really what they're going to go for. They still have some time to rotate down. So hopefully they do that, because I don't know. I mean, while the roam play was fun to see from Reciprocity, I don't know if Luminosity can pull it off at the same caliber.
I will say that there was a lot more restraint from Reciprocity, and they weren't playing the same style where it was set up around Skies or around Lax.
Very
It was
true.
much more of a team effort. In fact, I think Vertical was probably one of the best supported players on that particular defense.
And it happened.
And it happened very well. Reciprocity's system, despite it being completely different, was very effective against Luminosity. Now, of course, these teams have been scrimming with the new rosters, so we'd have to get in touch with the local scrim reporters to see exactly what's been going on.
Scrim daily.
But the general consensus is that neither Dark Zero nor Rec have really taken a significant step back with these changes. In fact, a lot of people would argue that they were largely lateral moves. So
Fox apparently trying to use a different method of opening the hatch here.
I don't know if he's trying to make noise to maybe draw out Factor's Electric Claw, but the Electric Claw is on the church wall, just got thrown, so you don't have to fret at all that you're going to lose that main bar hatch. It gets blown open. He's still got 2x Kairos to use, possibly in the kitchen hatch, stock hatch, etc.
Well, now this is where they get set up for the push here. Of course, they've got hatches starting to get open. Not sure if they're going to go for the kitchen one or not, just because that could be tricky with all the impacting going on. Like the nice long angle there from Vertical, going through 2 floors. You usually see that from a Buck player. It's nice to see from Sophia as well. Obviously, possibly use both of his impacts to set that up, but unfortunately doesn't land any kills from it. However, Nyx is down here. We can see where his eyes are going. He's looking to shoot up a little bit here, open up some angles. See if he can push anyone behind that bomb, but no one really willing to expose themselves just yet. A lot of soft wall, though, for him to work with. And he finds one finally on Factor.
He just snaps right onto him. He can push in if he wants. He's got a clearer path. This will go on to drone work at the bottom of the stairs. Not really too worried, I guess, about getting pushed from Moto, which can be to his demise. Almost instinctively looks over to Moto as we say that, though. A minute to go, and you've taken Factor out. He's going to be I would say the X Factor, possibly, when it comes to the way that Kaid can play those hatches. But as we've seen the Electric Claws already go, you don't need to worry about them. One thing also to note is that this patch doesn't happen with the new Kaid Electric Claw radius. So it still only affects 2 of the reinforcements, not 3. There's Slash and Rexing getting in on the fun. 2 very quick kills for Luminosity to give themselves a favor in this round. Retro surveying over top of the hatch, waiting for somebody to peek him, but nobody's giving him the fight, at least not for the time being. He'll twist and turn up there and just languish as there's some damage being done through the floor holes that have been opened up to Vertical. And Laxi will need to push in alongside the rest of his team. He sees one of those Q mines go down as Retro falls off screen, and Luminosity on their very first defense, their maiden voyage, I think you could say, in excellent shape. Vertical gets dropped and then finished off, and there's still some life left in Luminosity as they take their very first defense.
Restraint definitely worked for them. That they really didn't overexpose themselves until they felt like they had some kills. And we saw just Reciprocity really stalling out. You know, once you had Nyx down there in position, open up the wall, he was in a great spot. And no one really used that as a spear tip. They just really weren't in a good position. A lot of attempts at vertical play happening from the members of Reciprocity, and because Luminosity wasn't giving up those free kills outside of the one Nyx was able to get, they just never really got a whole lot of ground gain downstairs. And that was a big problem for them. They really needed to have a better push after Nyx got his foothold, and that was something we saw, you know, Luminosity struggle with a little bit. So I gotta imagine that maybe they just didn't have a good read on the defensive setup, or at least not any utility that was going to help them push players out of positions to where they could actually get a kill. But good on Luminosity for actually just playing it smart that round, sticking to their defensive positions, taking advantage of members of Reciprocity, pushing into them. If they can pull it off again this round, we could see maybe a bit of a comeback in their morale as well after, I'd say, a bit of a crushing defeat on their attacks.
There's a lot of speculation to be made as to how Clubhouse plays out when it comes to, is it more defender-sided, is it more attacker-sided, etc. The answer in our very first matchup of the day was, well, it seems to be pretty attacker-sided, right?
This whole day so far has been a bit attacker-sided, up till, I mean, this match.
A very aggressive meta that we're in, and I think a lot of people would say that North America tends to be one of the more aggressive regions, but not as structured as maybe a region like Europe, let's say, or maybe even APAC. The most aggressive region probably being Latin America. I think most people would probably agree on that assessment, if not, fight me IRL, I think they would say, so.
Well, they're on the roof, so hopefully they shoot the default cams here.
Learn from Luminosity.
Yeah. I would hope so, definitely. They're going to be bringing the Kaid again. This time, of course, it's for a different bomb site. It's still pretty useful depending on how you want to play it. They could be using it to try and help protect the hot tub wall, as they have a bandit as well, and it's a little unsafe to be playing that as a bandit once the window on Jim gets opened up. See where Nyx is looking here. Let's see some good Tobii eye tracking there for just a moment. Doodle gonna rotate up. That roam not really paying off. Nope, actually reloads and goes back down. They really want to guard this bottom floor here, make sure that these stairs stay secure. We saw what Slebin did with those stairs earlier on, and I can understand that caution at that point.
You don't want to be too over-aggressive here. Rec will open up the jacuzzi wall very effectively and will now confront the secondary wall that's inside of the bathroom. It's going to be electrified too, so whether it be an electric claw or a bandit battery, you got to shake that off, and that's going to be all in the hands of Laxing, who's on the Thatcher duty. Vertical did play Thatcher quite a bit on Rogue before the team's demise, so we know that there's flexibility as well on the attacking lineup for Rec here as to what they want to do. There's a drone in the middle of the site, and Nyx is pinging away, maybe to try and spook the Jaeger of Rexen. He's very good in a gunfight, so you don't necessarily want to go head-to-head if you can avoid it. Shake the Jaeger off and then go in there, right?
Shake him like a flea.
Drone finally gets shot out, and they're going to need to do some more intel as Rexen is on the ground. There you go. Nyx will go back on it. He sees the head of the Jaeger. This could be a possible beautiful shot. But what's bound to happen? Slash. If you throw it, that's an easy double. But he's not going to go for it. Rexen gets punished by Nyx, and Slash doesn't know what he could have had. Retro going for the plant. C4 goes out. It won't do enough. Hyena's down, and Slash is at 1 HP. This is almost a flawless round. Diffuser down 2. ADS will eat the flashbang, and Slash is inside of the bathroom. He has absolutely no way out except for fighting his way out, and I think he just gives a truce. Shoots in the air. Flawless round from Reciprocity. How about match point for them?
Well, that was definitely a better round than the first one for them. I mean, given this is a much harder site to defend in a lot of ways, I mean, yeah, depending on how things go down, could be a good site, but it's unreliable on whether or not, depending on how the attack goes down, that you could hold that site very well. And Reciprocity just took advantage of the fact they were able to get a lot of different angles and pressure on Luminosity, and Luminosity couldn't just turtle the way that they did on Church. You can't just sit in a position like they did there and wait for Reciprocity to walk into you. You've really got to be able to hold down the angles and make sure that Reciprocity doesn't get control of things like windows, things like cache and construction, and hot tub wall, things like that. You just can't the same way. If they're going to go to Gym again, that seems a little confusing to me. They are having their timeout now. This is something, again, they should have done earlier. You really don't want to be doing it on match point, because if your discussion doesn't work or take right away, that's it. The map's over.
Yeah.
You don't really get to do it. You get one per map. If you use it at the end of that map, it doesn't do you, it's 1 round's worth of good. So hopefully this pep talk helps them here, because 2 points is not a great record to walk away with on this map. But, I mean, Reciprocity is a tough team to be up against. There's no shame in losing this map to them at this point.
I mean, take a look at that, the absolute Chad of Laxing on the right-hand side. You want to go up against that? You want that staring down at you?
I'm not fighting in my IRL, that's for sure.
I wish the camera people could go back to look at Laxing's gaze.
You need 2 cameras just to catch
Look at Laxing's gaze on that. Look at him.
Like on the back wall
Just
there.
staring.
Oh, man, he's a beast.
Strikes fear into the heart of any normal man.
I'm scared.
I'm not even playing and I'm scared.
Yeah.
The calling so far from Luminosity has not been strong. You talked about this earlier where you think it falls on the shoulders of the IGL. I completely agree with that. Right now, Rec is just calling a much better match than Luminosity. The adaptations that have come out from Rec on the fly, whether it be on defense or on attack so far, have been better than what we've seen at a Luminosity. And whether Luminosity is sticking to a plan or not, you gotta shake it up. It doesn't matter if it was pre-planned. The game is won and lost oftentimes through the middle of these rounds. And Luminosity have looked listless when it comes to making the changes that are required. Be it a rotation to go after a part of the defense that you don't have to worry about. Because they're weak. We saw it on Church. It was a good push from LG down blue because they realized that was the weak spot of Reciprocity, but that was the only real time where I was convinced that the calling by Luminosity was better than Rec. So far, Rec have just been so much better with playing and making the changes needed.
Well, let's hope that they don't need the IGL as much because they had the coach involved there during the timeout, so they could actually at least form a really coherent plan for this round. But you know that Mike Tyson saying everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and they've certainly got punched in the mouth here. So if anything goes wrong this round, I don't have a lot of faith in Luminosity's ability to adjust to it. You already have a bit of damage being done to Rexen as well as to Retro. But, Retro, as long as he gets his walls open, it doesn't matter too much. I mean, yes, he's the diffuse carrier, but I think with the amount of power you've got of the rest of the players here, that's not as big a deal. you know, Rexing being beat up is actually, I think, a little bit more of a big deal here. Walls getting opened up here, or castle barricades rather, opening up angles to make sure Retro can do his job. No one's going to contest that. The slash looked like he should have opened up that a little bit earlier in the bathroom. He opened up at the top of the bathroom to throw an electrical off to deny it, but just too late. Already that lack of preparation.
Already so much damage being done to Luminosity here on both Doodle and Rexen.
Yeah.
And it's... I don't think it's going the way already that they want. They're going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. This is tough. You're going to go to Jim twice. You could have gone to Cash here. This is LG's map, like we said.
Yeah.
That's the biggest worry for me, is that this is... We know that LG plays decently well on Clubhouse. It's always been a good map for Rec, though. Let's not shortchange Reciprocity. They're very comfortable on Clubhouse. I think that if you look at the fact that it's Clubhouse, Villa, and Border, I think Rec won the map ban stage, period.
Relocated!
They've got a good map pool. I don't doubt their ability to win a lot of map bans for that reason. And so far, LG is just going to have to adapt as best they can here. But we've seen all 2-0s so far today, so losing a map can be a pretty big deal in that kind of situation. There goes one player of LG already, Factor getting tanked down by Nyx, and 2 other players at low health. It's not looking good. Retro hasn't even yet been touched since the early damage, and he's really gotten his job done, and now he's able to sneak into Jib. Slash, though, least finding the trade on a Nyx.
It was a little bit later than I think LG probably would have wanted. Retro's all on his own. He gets pushed up on by Rexen, who needs to really come alive at this point. Now, I think the shadows there might be a little deceiving, but the gun barrel is being spotted. Foxy knows somebody's there making the calls. Watch Jacuzzi. Someone is there. Can you possibly capitalize on that? Taking Rexen out of the equation.
He sees the gun tip.
Can't really do much about it. I mean, you can't damage the gun, even though in real life, if you were to hit it with a bullet, it would probably shake it out of their hands. Foxy jumps right in. Doodle takes out Laxing, traded by Vertical. Foxy finds Slash, and well, it's Rexen, who was spotted earlier. Vertical in a 1v2. It's just him versus Doodle. 5 seconds left. Doodle's down below. They've got the kill holes in the floor. If you have intel, you got to use it now because Doodle doesn't know what's going on. You got to shoot him, and there you go. This round's over. They had the marks that were required, likely from the Maestro cam, and Luminosity manages to stave off defeat for the time being, putting that timeout to good use. Still match point for Rec.
Well, seems like that timeout helped, but I feel like a big problem they had there was lack of good coverage on Retro. The fact that he was sneaking and trying to get set up for a gym plant, but with no real support on the hot tub cutting off the rotate there. I mean, the bathroom was sealed up. The wall was closed. He could have been set up to open the bathroom possibly, although there was an electrical on it, but he didn't have support. He didn't have someone cutting off that rotation, and that's an easy angle to hold. You can just really hold the angle to the top of the stairs from there, and that cuts off any rotate. That would have kept Retro alive. He would have been able to get set up for a plant while the rest of the players were playing either angles. Well, that was ultimately what cost them the round, because then they had to start to work with that and just weren't able to find Rexen. I mean, yes, they were staring at the barrel of his gun, but that they couldn't do anything, that he had to jump in to try and bait him. It was a tough spot to be in. So one mistake, kind of snowballing a little bit for them there, but it's still match point. Reciprocity are still in a perfect position here to take this home, and maybe they just gave a little bit, extra to Luminosity here. But Luminosity are going to be feeling a little bit more confident that their, timeout worked, that they could make the plays here. I mean, you don't want that to be that close of a round in terms of confidence, but
yeah,
better than
that was
nothing.
still way too close for comfort, I think you could say. So you're going to go over to Cash, and CCTV hasn't been defended yet by Luminosity. They're going to get one crack at it. This is where things get kind of tough because you don't have a do-over. If you lose Cash CCTV, that's it. That's all she wrote. Luminosity have, at least so far, through the 3 rounds that they've played on defense, they have a winning record.
Yeah.
But even if they drop one more round,
that's it.
That's it.
Map.
That's it. That's it. That's all.
That's good night.
Yeah.
Villa's a good one as well, like you said, for Reciprocity, so tough spot. Wow, Factor taking that damage from below. We were talking about that earlier, the amount of damage that Zofia lifeline does to you from below, and Factor definitely feeling that now. That pushes them off, helps get the wall open there, so now they have checklist item 1 done. There is no Capital to help with checklist item number 2, which is Rexing up in the catwalk of the garage. So they'll have to find a different way to deal with them if they want to push from that side. However, they could also push from the other side, from construction, something we saw happen earlier as well. I know we kept referencing earlier, but that was a lot of good examples of contrasts or similar things that are happening now because it was a good, long clubhouse match.
Yeah. I mean, you and I really ran the gauntlet.
50, yeah. I mean,
we saw 30 rounds. I mean, I feel like there were fewer than 30 rounds played in the SSG DZ matchup. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, didn't really quite take that long.
No.
So
I mean, it might not for Reciprocity here as well if they could just pick it back up, close one more round out. Looks like he's checking the time, figuring out what's going on here in terms of where they need to be pacing-wise.
in for his pickup order.
Yeah, he's
Checking where the delivery driver is.
Come on, man.
He's got to get that bread.
Yeah.
You know?
Check that GPS, make sure you're at the right spot.
The audible groans from the analyst desk was totally worth that joke.
They are pushing, though, from the construction connector side, it looks like. They don't want to bother with Garage. And that's going to leave Rexon doing a whole lot of nothing right now. That also leaves Slash with a Yokai kind of sitting in a Garage and not doing much. That he's forced now to rotate up to Catwalk and rotate around to help support Doodle.
It's a strong position for Team Reciprocity to be in now as they pinch from both sides. You lose Doodle. The smoke goes down. Some of your best denial is off of the board, putting more weight on Slash's shoulders with the Yokais and Hyenas as well with the Maestro cams. Blowing open the barbed wire, maybe some other utilities scattered about. Not really entirely sure what Nyx was going for there. He's guarding inside of Cash, and it looks like most of Luminosity are very far off site. Oh, beautiful shot from Nyx on the Hyena as Factor takes down Retro. Still an advantage for Reciprocity in a 4v3 with Nyx in full control. Finds another, moves back on over. Foxy takes Rexon down, but there's a Yokai in play. It's going to give itself away. Slash knows how hopeless that is, and he's going to have to take the fight to them. But he'll make an awful lot of noise onto the barbed wire. Shooting through the floor is his best bet, and he'll miss just by a second. Hard to beat. It's him and Foxy, and there's somebody else heading on down to Lounge. Doesn't really matter. First map is going to go to Reciprocity. It was LG's, but it doesn't matter. They're up 1-0, and we go to Villa next.
Well, at least they managed to pick up 2 rounds on their defense, but 2 rounds is nowhere near enough. Reciprocity showing they were dominant on LG's map, and they go to a map next that very strong on. This is looking really good for Reciprocity to take it home, but Luminosity will have a little bit of time here between these 2 maps to also recollect themselves, and hopefully they'll be able to do so.
Well, the analysts have certainly some things to bite into. 10 rounds of action between these 2 teams, and obviously some questions to be asked as to why Reciprocity triumphed on Luminosity's map. Gentlemen, take it away.
The questions definitely need to be answered on where we're going to see Luminosity go in map number 2 on Villa, but we also need to answer the question of who's actually doing the one that's giving these jokes to M-Zone and Taro, because it definitely needs to be